Right. Okay, so I appear to be live. I'll just let's have a look. Okay, 1 sec. I'll just do a share around. I sometimes think I'll schedule these in advance, you know. Here we go, share to Bookface. Someone specifically asked me to let them know when I've gone live, so I'll do that. I'll just let him know. And there we go. I'll just now. Sorry, guys, it won't take long. I'll come back to the chat in a moment because I'm sure you're all piling it in there. Definitely weekends are best for live streams, I think. They really are. Just share this around. Hello then to user 1. Hello, Araminta Mooncrow. Evening, Cheese Lord and fellow truth seekers. Hi, Araminta. How you doing? Hope you had a good time the other evening. I think it was last night or whenever it was. You inboxed me. Tricky Who. Oh, that's a good name. Tricky Who. Welcome. Bernie Tucker. Good evening. Brando. Hello. Darren Hesmo. Tim Elf. Hail Ben. Hail Darren. Hail Tim. Tina Silver. Yes, B. The 33 parts of the crowd found at locations 0 to something 33. Oh, right. That's interesting, those numbers, isn't it? Let me just... I'll just expand this so I can see it better. Zoom. That's better, yeah. So welcome all of you. Martin Taylor, hello. Greetings. David Schultz, greetings. Ben from cold and snowy Maine. Is it still snowy in there? Is it still winter? Oh, dear. Hello, Brian Clare. Hello, TK. Salisbury Beach. Yeah, I'll be talking about these things as we go through this live stream. Brando says, Justin Bieber was a hospital porter, I found out. The pattern continues. Someone's just emailed me about Mick Jagger. Now, I actually did find out. I did manage to confirm Mick Jagger's service because I heard about it a few years ago, and I included him in my Hospital Porters Hall of Fame. But no, Justin Bieber too. Oh my goodness. Charles, blimey, you've gone tinfoil mode early, Ben. Oh, Charles from Project Camelot. I've gone. Have I really early? What's talking about Justin Bieber being a hospital porter? Yeah, Green Sky 17. Hello from the Caverns Arms from Dumfries. Is that a pub? Oh, nice one, Green Sky. Yeah, Tina says 33 or something to the Malaysian Airlines logo 33. Is it oh, there's a few other people here. Hang on, yeah. Jeff Sperry, good evening. Charles and Project Camelot, good evening. TK, greetings. Oh yeah, Ben. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, Martin Taylor, right you are. Tina says Doctor Who was a hospital porter at the hospital where I was born. That must be Tom Baker. Yeah, I think we talked about that, didn't we? When because you and I have met and spoken about these things. I think you told me about this, that he was Tom Baker, the actor, was actually a hospital porter. I forgot the hospital it was at, but it was the one you were born at, yeah. Rick Horden, good evening. Live long and prosper. I'm glad you're all here, guys. Brando, can you imagine Mick Jagger as a hospital porter? You've got a case of the honky tonk blues. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I've done an article about it. I sent it to someone who actually emailed me, someone who actually posts regularly, and it's true. It is completely true. Where's the article? Hang on. I won't post it now because it's not really relevant. But I'm I haven't had time to put my notes together properly. Hang on. There's something I do want to bring up later, which I think is important. All right. Charles says Tom Baker was a Franciscan monk. Never knew he was a real doctor. Was he? Wasn't. He played one once in a TV show. Tina has reminded me of something very shameful, which unfortunately I can't forget. So it's not a big deal. But Jimmy Savile was a hospital porter. Yes, he was. That's a disgrace to the profession. Yeah. So, guys, you wanted it and you got it. I'm doing a live stream about MH370, and I'll go into all the details about that. I'll answer as many of your comments as I can. I can't promise to answer every single one. Charles says Jagger being a hospital porter explains the modern pharmaceutical industry. Then, Charles, that's a even Bill Ryan, I don't think would go with that conspiracy theory. But I'll go for the. You've left some interesting comments on the. There's a few comments on the. Where is it? On the notice. I'll go through these because I always forget those, so I'll go through them now. Let me just. Yep, indeed. Here we go. So I'll go through because I don't want to forget these because I will. You know, I'm like I keep forgetting these things. Oh, that's strange. Some of them have gone. Oh, hang on. Oh, damn it. I'm gonna have to go to. Just a minute. I'm gonna go to the studio. Health review. No, they're all published. Let's have a look. The studio's often the best place of doing this. They're not. No, they're not all. They're still. Health review published. Where's Jamnoise 72's comment? Oh, I'm going to go back to the general one. Hang on. Alright, just going to start again, guys. I think what I'll do is I'll just go through to when I actually posted the. Here we go. Okay, E.T. Hello, E.T. How are you? E.T. says on the notice live stream, Malaysia Flight 370, the Rothschilds act of wiping out certain individuals and their patents for items of interest to further the Great Reset agenda. Now, there are some interesting coincidences about the victims of this. I don't know if that's the case, E.T. It could be. People made this thing about the Lockerbie crash because one of the scientists in the research into the HIV virus and fighting it was killed in that crash. Unfortunately, it could be that it's just a coincidence. These things do happen. We'll go into that. Charles from Project Camelot says, tread carefully with this one, Ben. Real people lost their lives. I'm well aware of that, Charles. I am. I'm actually not one of the. There are going to be. I'll say from the outset, there are people who claim that the plane didn't crash at all. It landed somewhere, and all the named passengers and crew are living under fake identities in some kind of in some kind of secret colony in the Algarve or something like that. That's not true. I don't think that's true. But as for tread carefully, well, it's funny. No one. I know the point you're making. It's. I think if I'm guessing rightly, people said the same thing about 9/11. They said, real people died. They said this to the conspiracy theorist. Real people died on 9/11. It wasn't a game. It wasn't a silly little piece of internet gossip or anything like that. It was real. You're talking about real lives here. Can't you show some respect? Have some sensitivity. Just real people. Do you know how much pain this is causing the loved ones? Well, I don't understand why it's only people on the conspiratorial side of things that have any explaining to do in that respect. No one ever goes up to people and say to them, say things like, don't you think you should show a bit more respect and sensitivity when you tell people that 19 guys with hardware tools took over aircraft and beat the best defended airspace in the world to crash into buildings and then turned into dust? Don't you think you should show some respect? Have some sensitivity? Don't you realize it's pain? Do you realize what pain spreading this nonsense does to people? No one ever says that to people. This kind of statement is only ever made against people who dispute official stories on anything. And I actually did a video called Show Some Respect. It's based on a poem, actually. I think the video's called Show Some Respect. I wrote a poem called Show Some Respect about this. I can't remember the actual... I'm not going to look up the poem and recite it now. But it's like... If you were walking along the street one day, Charles, or anyone else who's watching this, just think about this. You're walking along the street some day. This little old lady's walking along the street towards you. And suddenly a bunch of thugs approach her with baseball bats. They beat her to death in the street. You're the only witness. They steal her handbag and run off with it, all her money and everything she has. They take her handbag from her dead blood-stained hands, and they run off with it. Now, is it showing her respect? Is it showing respect for her memory and sensitivity to her children and grandchildren? To when the police come along, say, "I never saw anything, officers. I think she just collapsed. It must have been a heart attack." Is that respectful? Is that showing sensitivity to the loved ones? Because that's essentially what we're being asked to do. People who question the official story 9/11. Now, if a crime is committed and you deny that it happened, and you don't go forward and reveal what you know to the police, then you're complicit. The people who committed 9/11, I'm not going to go on to about 9/11 now, it's just an example. The people who committed this crime are still walking free. How is it respectful? I'm not addressing you, Charles, specifically here, but you brought up this kind of issue. How is it showing respect to those people to just say, well, let them get away with it then? We're not going to do anything to expose them. We're not going to say anything to expose them. And that's the basic gist of my poem that I wrote. So you can find it on my channel somewhere, Charles. I put it on Ben's bookcase as well, written form. Steve Mumling says, no doubt it was the aliens. My goodness, Steve Mumling's going tinfoil hat now. We'll come on to that in a minute. But Steve, I'm shocked, I'm shocked. Yeah. The best defences against sarcasm is to take it seriously. Charles says, same breed as the Queen, no doubt. Oh, don't. That's questionable. Well, we'll come on to what actually caused it in a minute, but Steve Mumbling obviously thinks I'm going to say... Steve Mumbling is obviously... What he means is he's being sarcastic, is he thinks I'm going to say it's aliens. And I haven't actually said that yet, but we'll see if he's right or wrong, won't we? BZ Garson says underneath, whenever did he care about real people losing their lives, whenever there was a tragedy of significance, he's all over it like a rash in a flash, often linking them to some wacky conspiracy theory. Check out his, I can't say that word on a YouTube video from a few years back at the height of his insensitivity. Well, to be said, I haven't made a video on the subject you're talking about, so I don't know what you're talking about here. Anyway, you keep telling the police that lady died of a heart attack, BZ. Go on. You tell the police she just died of a heart attack. No one hurt her. That's how you show. You see, that's how you you are. So you use the word insensitivity. You see, if you don't tell the police that old lady died of a heart attack, you're being insensitive. So whenever old ladies get kicked to death in the street by thugs, right? You're all over it in a rash, aren't you? Often linking it and saying it was just a heart attack. You keep doing that, BZ. You keep showing that. You keep showing you care about her memory. Just like that interview you were supposed to be arranging for me with the women who've had abortions, and it's never happened, does it? We've been waiting nearly. Was it how now? Close to a year now. When's it going to happen, BZ? Steve Mumbling says underneath. It's amazing people are putting words in my mouth. They don't even know what I'm going to say yet. BZ has accused me of making a video about a subject I've never made a video about. There's nothing. Check it out on my channel. There's nothing there. Steve Mumbling says, in Ben World, whatever it is can be anything other than what it actually is. I didn't know he was the word I can't say on YouTube. What can you expect from someone who seriously believes the Queen of England is a shape-shifting lizard from outer space? He has no grip on reality. So Steve is saying, I didn't know Ben was this. Steve Mumbling is now believing what BZ has said without even checking it out. Well done, Steve. When someone tells you what you want to hear, you believe it without evidence, don't you? Charles says to Steve, disastrous world events happen exactly as the history books tell us. Bad things happen because there are bad people in the world. Well, I agree with the second part, Charles, but they don't always happen exactly as the history books tell us. E.T. I've done E.T. Now, Germanwings72 is posted here. This is the last comment on the... I'm glad I actually cut these comments. And she's got a video here you want to watch. I won't actually show you the whole thing, but she's done a video. I'll just show it you briefly here. Hang on. I'll do the display capture. There you go. The flight that disappeared, 1961. Now, and she talks about things here. I put a comment on there, you see. And I mentioned the Langoliers. That's I don't know if we've got time to go into that tonight. But I've made a film about an entire video about the Langoliers. It's just a short video which talks. It has some little vignettes of films about planes disappearing. But also some information about what happened. So how are you guys getting on in chat? I'll just go over there and say hello to you people. There's lots of more people here. I can't read all these comments. I'm sorry. I can't read all. So many comments. We've got 39 people watching. Usual one. When's the next Third Rail episode? When Trevor and I can get to do it. Elmo got out his dick and balls. That's a good name. Charles says the Twin Towers weren't brought down by an old lady with a handbag, Ben. Correct. It was something else. But it wasn't, I don't believe it was a heart attack, to use that metaphor. Hello, Russ Isaac. Hello, Welsh Ripper. All right, so I'm talking about... Oh, right. Okay, thanks very much, guys, for all your comments. Hello, Sue Hayward-Tonkin. How are you? Yeah, the sun has not yet risen here in Oz. Yeah, good morning. Yes, of course, I always say good morning to you because that's the time of day it is, isn't it? Yeah. All right, then, guys. Okay. So this is a subject you wanted me to talk about. I will talk about it. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. Now, this has been described as a jumbo jet in some quarters. It actually wasn't. It was. I was still on display capture. Sorry. There we go. It wasn't. It was a 777. It was a Boeing 777-200ER. I'll show you a picture of it. There you go. That's the actual. That is the actual plane. That photo was taken in France a few years earlier, and that's the plane that disappeared. It took off from this was a scheduled flight that took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport. I love the name Kuala Lumpur, by the way. It's a beautiful name, which is the capital or biggest city in Malaysia. It was operated by Malaysia Airlines, and it was due to fly to Peking to the Capital International Airport in Peking. I know you're supposed to say Beijing. I don't have time to go into this now, but I watched a very interesting channel where a guy was talking about how they changed the name from Peking to Beijing, even though Beijing is correct. It's like it's done for a rather sinister purpose. This is why people ask where Bombay is. Well, Bombay is now called Mumbai, and Calcutta is now called Kolkata, and there's a list of names that have changed. And this channel is very good because he was talking about, this guy was talking about, I'll talk about this in more detail in another video, but he said it's all about inducing empire guilt in British people. And so the moment anyone, that's a red rag to a bull to me, when anyone ever tries to make me feel things like that, guilty, the stuff about all the other things I've talked about, how they make you feel guilty, I resist. I say things that are deliberately transgressive. So it was flying to Peking, and it last communicated with air traffic control just 38 minutes after takeoff, where it's flying over the South China Sea. And I'll just show you you can see that there was where it was supposed to be going. That was its actual route. And I'm just going through. I know I'm going through Wikipedia. That's the simplest thing. This is what actually happened. Departs from the airport there. Flew over the Malaysian peninsula, and then something happened there, and it changed course radically. Went back across the Beijing Peninsula, changed course again and headed west at Penang. Last primary radar contact, 0222 Malaysian time. That's 22 minutes past 6 Universal time. That's the actual. It was a scheduled flight, one of 2 daily flights operated by the Malaysian Airlines from its hub at Kuala Lumpur. Scheduled to depart 00:35 local time, and that's 800 Universal time. Arrive at 6:30 local time, Universal time, +8. So that's that's +8 hours. That's 6:30 local time in Peking in China. There were 2 pilots, 10 cabin crew, 12 crew members, 227 passengers, and 31,517 pounds of cargo. It was supposed to be just 5-hour, 34 minutes flight, and they had plenty of fuel. They had lots of the usual safety features, enough fuel to divert to alternative airports if necessary. This was all planned in advance should they not be able to reach Peking. They took off 4 minutes late, cleared by air traffic control, climbed to approximately 18,000 feet. Everything was normal. Everything was normal. Voice analysis determined the first officer communicated with ATC, air traffic control, while the flight was on the ground, and the captain communicated afterwards. Shortly after departure, the flight was transferred from the airport's ATC to Lumpur radar, air traffic control. It's just a few details here. At 0:46, Lumpur radar cleared Flight 370 to flight level 350, 35,000 feet. At 0101, Flight 370's crews reported to Lumpur radar they'd reached the flight level and confirmed again at 0108, so 7 minutes later. All seems normal at that time. The aircraft's final transmission was an automated position report sent through air traffic control 0106, so just a couple of minutes earlier. I think so. The confirmation 0108 must have been by the navigation radar, and then the last verbal signal occurred at 0119, 30 seconds. Now that's a few minutes later. Captain Zahari acknowledged transmission from Lumpur radar to Ho Chi Minh ACC. That's in Vietnam. That's the capital city of Vietnam. Lumpur radar, Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 1222 decimal good night. Flight 370 good night, Malaysian 370. So he just said good night and that signed off. The crew was expected to signal air traffic control in Ho Chi Minh City as the aircraft passed into Vietnamese airspace, just north of the point where contact was lost. The captain of another aircraft attempted to contact the crew of Flight 370 shortly after 1:30, because they must have known at that point something was wrong, using the international air distress frequency to relay Vietnamese air traffic control's request for the crew to contact them. This actually, funnily enough, that happened over British airspace a little while ago, where contact was lost with an aircraft. The captain said he was able to establish communication, but only heard mumbling and static. So someone was speaking, but they couldn't speak properly, or they weren't properly. Calls made to Flight 370's cockpit at 0239 and 0713 were unanswered, but acknowledged by the aircraft's satellite data unit. That's important. The plane was in the air because we didn't know where it was, but it was contacting satellites right through until basically the point where we'd expect it to run out of fuel, where they estimated it would have run out of fuel. So no, it didn't land at Diego Garcia. So everyone's you know from those comments that Steve Mumbling and BZ Larson left on the notice, that they've already worked out what they think I'm going to say, and they are putting the words in my mouth before I've even said them. So not even waiting to hear what I have to say. We'll come on to that later. I think they're both going to be very embarrassed by the end of this video. At 0120, Flight 370 was observed on radar at Kuala Lumpur ACC as it passed a navigational waypoint in the Gulf of Thailand. 0121, it disappeared from the radar screen at Kuala Lumpur ACC and was lost at the same time on radar for Ho Chi Minh ACC, which reported that the aircraft was nearly at waypoint BITOD. The waypoints have like what they call VORs, which are basically transponders, which are like invisible road signs for the aircraft to use in the sky. They basically decide where the airways are. The air traffic control used 7 secondary radar to try and contact the transponder on the aircraft. But it looks like the transponder was no longer functioning on Flight 370 after 0121. So we know that these things can be switched off. The final transponder data indicated the aircraft was flying at its assigned cruise altitude, flight level 350, 417 knots, and that it then was heading west eventually. It headed back across the Malay Peninsula and went west. At that time, the transponder stopped functioning. Military radar then showed Flight 70 turning right, but then beginning a left turn to the southwesterly direction. So the military radar, of course, doesn't need transponders. It can it's much more sensitive. It can pick up things in the sky. It's designed to specifically to find aircraft that are deliberately trying to hide themselves, to make themselves invisible. So finding an airliner will be very easy. From 0130 to 0135, military radar showed Flight 370 at 35,000 feet on a 213 heading, ground speed 496 knots. Flight 370 continued across the Malay Peninsula, fluctuating between 31 and 30,000 feet, so it come down slightly. A civilian primary radar at the Sultan Ismail Petra Airport made 4 detections on an unidentified aircraft, which must have been that particular aircraft. A 152 Flight 370 was detected passing south of the island of Penang. That's near the coast of the Malay Peninsula, if you remember the map I showed you. So at that point, the aircraft flew across the Strait of Malacca, after which it flew along an air route, N571, and it gives you a list of waypoints here. The last known radar detection from a point near the limits of Malaysian military air radar was at 0222. So it was actually following an airway, and was for over an hour. The military radar had it; they knew where it was. Now, countries are reluctant to release information about their military radar because they don't want to reveal anything about its capabilities. We've seen this actually with the Nimitz incident, with the UFO issue, the UAPs. A lot of the reason that the US Navy is holding back information is not because particularly they want to cover up UFOs at this point. They're just concerned about people learning about, foreign adversaries learning about the capabilities of the ships. Indonesian military radar then tracked Flight 70 while en route to waypoint IGRA-ARA before the transponder is thought to be turned off. Did not provide information where it detected it afterwards. Thailand and Vietnam also detected Flight 370. Now at 0225, this is after it's disappeared from radar, the aircraft's satellite communication system sent a log-on request message to a satellite. That is a navigation system based on satellites for aircraft. So that's the first message since 0107, which was relayed by satellite to the ground control station. Inmarsat is the company that operates that. After logging onto the network, the satellite data unit aboard the aircraft responded to hourly status requests. So the aircraft was there, was flying. They didn't know where it was, but the satellite automatically sent status requests to the aircraft. They also sent automatic ground-to-aircraft telephone calls at 0239 and 0713. So they were trying to phone the pilot directly. They have an emergency telephone system. The final status request and aircraft acknowledgement occurred at 0810. So it was still flying then. This was an hour and 40 minutes after it was scheduled to arrive in Peking. And it's interesting that so you can see it has extra fuel. It has more fuel than it needs for the flight, the actual scheduled flight. But then at some point it's going to run out of fuel. After that, there was a log-on acknowledgement message 0819, and that's the last piece of data available from Flight 70. The aircraft did not respond to a status request from Inmarsat at 0915. So by 0950 it was probably not flying. Oh, yeah. Malaysian Airlines issued a statement at 0724 Malaysian time, an hour after the scheduled flight time arrival in Peking, and just said the communication has been lost and began a search and rescue operation. At that time, you get these very distressing scenes where the relatives, some of them are actually in the arrivals hall waiting for assuming they were going to walk out of the arrivals hall, their friends and relatives on the plane. And they were just told, sorry, but the plane has disappeared. And then they announced that it was assumed lost with no survivors. It notified most of the families in person or via telephone. And some received an SMS in English and Chinese, informing them it was likely the aircraft to crash with no survivors. Oh God, it's like what a horrible. That's a horrible way to do it. I mean, it's like I suppose in wartime, like in World War II, people would receive telegrams with a brief sympathy message from the Ministry of War when you were lost, when their loved one was reported killed in action. Oh, how bloody awful that was. Oh well, there was a considerable initial search, focused on 118,000 square miles. It's really, really a very, very difficult. It's a really impossible in open ocean. Looking for this plane is very, very difficult indeed. But there was a multinational search involved from Australia was involved, the UK, the Royal Navy were there. This was actually a recovery operation where they were looking for what is known as pingers. Now these are things attached to the aircraft's flight recorder, which are like audio beacons, which can last about 30 days. They send out pinging noises, so if they're lying on the seabed, they can be picked up from a by a hydrophone, something inserted in the water, a microphone inserted in the water to listen to underwater noise. The problem is they have limited range. They only really work in I think they have a limit of, where was it now? It's somewhere on this page. They talk about how far the pinger is. But I think it's like 6,000 feet or something. It has a range you can be heard by a hydrophone up to 6,000 feet away. In other words, 6,000 feet of depth. Now, a lot of that ocean is a lot deeper than that. And if the flight recorder is lying on a seabed deeper than that, it can't be picked up by the hydrophones. There was an attempt to use underwater search, a seafloor sonar survey. This is where they send down. They send echoes. Make noises which give off echoes from the seabed, which hopefully would allow people to see an object on the seabed. It's used for searching for shipwrecks, but that's very, very difficult indeed. I mean, do you remember how long it took them to find the Titanic? Titanic was a lot bigger than a 777 airliner, and it was in shallow water too. It was about 12,000 feet. This is actually deeper than this sea. A lot of this sea is deeper than 12,000 feet. And so this went on. It just went on and on for a long time, as long as they could. But eventually, they had to guess about where the crash site might have been based on the course of the aircraft and the amount of fuel was on board, because they assumed that the plane had run out of fuel. There was another search in 2018. A Dutch-based company called Virgo, an American one called Ocean Infinity, continued to search for the aircraft. But it's a really difficult search. Really difficult search. Now, then eventually some debris was found. By October 2017, 20 pieces of debris believed to be from this aircraft have been found. They've been found on beaches in the Western Indian Ocean. So that's where you'd expect them to be, based on ocean currents. Anything that floats will end up in a certain place because of ocean currents. Some of them, there was a bit of guesswork with some of them. For example, they found a bottle of a water bottle, which with drinking water in, which was Chinese. They found a Malaysian, another bottle of something which was Malaysian. But of course, unfortunately, plastic debris ends up in the sea all the time. However, eventually they found what's called a flaperon. Now, this is actually a control surface on the wing, discovered July 2015 on Reunion, an island in the Western Indian Ocean. And they also found a suitcase which was believed to belong to one of the passengers. So they found a number of items from this aircraft. The flaperon was positively identified as coming from the aircraft. It had a serial number on it, like embossed on it, which is indelible, which links it to that specific aircraft. That essentially was confirmation the aircraft had crashed in the sea. It says a few inferences can be made from satellite communication. The first is the aircraft remain operational until at least 08:19 Malaysian time, 7 hours after final contact was lost over the South China Sea. It was believed to be moving at speed based on the offset values of the frequency. The varying burst frequency offset values. I don't know what that means, but it's a way they can tell speed and direction. Not location, though. They couldn't actually locate it from this. Since the aircraft did not respond to a ping at 09:15, it can be concluded that at some point between 08:19 and 09:15, the aircraft lost the ability to communicate with the ground station. At 08:19, the aircraft had been airborne for 7 hours 38 minutes. Typical Kuala Lumpur to Peking flight time is 5.5 hours, so fuel exhaustion was likely. It would have had a bit of extra fuel. As I said, it needed enough fuel to get to alternative airports if necessary. Yeah. So then, what would happen then is the plane would have then it would have slowed down to the point where it stalled and just fell into the sea. There's all kinds of speculative causes here. Technical problems with the aircraft. Although the aircraft did appear to make a deliberate change of course. It deliberately went off grid and changed course. So the pilots, at least one of the pilots wanted to do that. Unfortunately, now because of 9/11, the cockpits are now sealed by a door specifically designed to deter intruders. So it's especially an extra strong door with a lock on the inside that can't be opened from the outside, and that's caused some problems, like with the Germanwings plane, which I'll talk about in a bit later. Now, there are several theories. I'll go to this page which talks about the theories. But basically, unfortunately, it's unlikely that there'll be a large. People say, well, maybe they'll take the plane off the seabed. They'll find the plane on the seabed and raise it the way they did the Titanic. They'll raise it. Well, raising anything from that depth is. I don't know if it's ever been done. I know that the problem is the plane there probably would not be large pieces of wreckage if the plane just nosedived into the sea. It would disintegrate, which means some of the wreckage would sink, the pieces would sink, and some would float. The ones that floated, some of them have been found. As I said, that one positively identified piece of that aircraft has been found. That's the sad fact of this matter, actually. Now, there's the possibility of hijacking has been brought up. Now, this is serious. This is seriously a possibility. The reasons why, there's several people have claimed why. Some people claimed that the hijackers took the plane to a remote island where there's a small airstrip. However, no group has claimed responsibility. There are more than 6,000 possible runways at which a plane like that could have landed within the range of that aircraft. Also, it's contradicted by the discovery of the fragments of MH370. The subsequent location of the aircraft following emergency ditching is near Christmas Island, apparently. They went to Christmas Island or something. There's all kinds of things like that. Hacking is another theory, which can be done on modern aircraft. How am I getting on? Just checking everything's all right. Yeah, recording's on. Is everyone all right in the comments section? I will not be able to read all the comments. I'm sorry, guys. I know there's going to be a lot of comments which you'll want to make, and I won't be able to go through them all. I'll have to just go through a few. Hacking is a possibility, but I think Dov Sakheim was talking about this, because Dov Sakheim was one of the people on the project for the New American Century, who brought in like ground control overrides for aircraft. The idea that would happen, the pilots would have something to say about that. They would have put out a distress call if that had happened. A terrorist attack. Again, there's some strange things. For example, two of the passengers that boarded the flight used stolen passports. The passports, one Austrian, one Italian, had been stolen in Thailand within the preceding 2 years. Both passports were listed on its stolen and lost travel documents database. I don't know why that meant they hadn't been cancelled. No check had been made against the database since the passports were first reported stolen. Normally, when that happens, they say phone them up and we'll cancel the passport. And then they send you a replacement. The two one-way tickets were purchased for the holders of these passports, booked through China Southern Airlines. An Iranian had ordered the cheapest tickets to Europe via telephone in Bangkok and Thailand and paid cash. Oh dear, Iran paying by cash. Oh, we know about these sinister people who use cash, don't we? Yes, they don't want to get. But yeah, people. I think you saw my speech in Oxford a little while ago. Now, I don't know how often that happens, that people take stolen passports, they're not cancelled, and they successfully board aircraft. Now, one of the more likely explanations is actually somebody involved in the flight crew was actually deliberately did this. And the police did investigate all 12 crew members. Now, Captain Zahari, there was some elements that he was under a lot of mental stress. He was suffering from mental stress. First of all, like they commandeered his computer and analysed his flight simulator files. It's good that these pilots use Microsoft Flight Simulator like I do. You know, it's not just for amateurs like me, but professional pilots use them as well to practice. That's good to know. So it's not just like it's just something. But there was some idea that he was under stress. Apparently, he took a phone call from, where was it? He took a phone call from a mysterious woman, a female voice on his mobile phone just before he got on the plane. And someone said that this was his bit on the side, and his wife knew about it, and there was some trouble. Thing is, his wife denied it. All his family denied that he had any problems with that. But there was a route on the flight simulator files. He'd actually created a flight which matched the projected flight over the Indian Ocean. At first, they thought that was something suspicious, although then they dismissed it. They said that there was nothing suspicious because it was actually a standard route which he may well have been using. It doesn't prove anything. Now, the cargo is carrying 23,000 pounds of cargo, of which 4, ULDs, unit load devices. These are like containers for ships. Mangosteens, a tropical evergreen tree with edible fruit. So some lithium-ion batteries. Well, the mangosteens were loaded in the aft cargo area. I don't know if that's significant or not. People who handle mangosteens and the Chinese importers were questioned to rule out sabotage. You mean they might have hidden bombs in there or something? Right? Well, the thing is, why didn't they just blow it up? Why change course? I mean, the plane changed course. It's hard to believe, especially when they stopped using the radar, that the pilots, at least one of the pilots, was somehow involved. It's possible that one of the pilots was involved and the other pilot just was locked out the cabin. This happened with the Germanwings suicide a little while ago. Let's just talk about that. Hang on. I'm not on screen share, I might know. Yeah, this is Germanwings Flight 9525. This is a really tragic case. This was solved. The flight recorder was found, and we know what happened. But this was a scheduled flight from Barcelona to Dusseldorf in Germany, just a short haul flight from Spain to Germany. Germanwings is like a budget character, and it crashed in the Alps, high up in the mountains, 51 miles northwest of Nice. Everyone on board was killed. The crash was caused by the first officer, Andreas Lubitz. Now, what he'd done is he was already being treated for depression or things like that. He was on the verge of being grounded by his doctor, because of course pilots are continuously monitored. Their mental and physical health is continuously monitored. You can very easily get grounded if you're ill, and they say you're grounded until you're better, basically. When the captain left the cockpit, that's the other pilot. The Lubitz then locked the door, and so no one could get back in. And then he basically crashed the plane. And it's really horrible because there were voice recorders in the cabin, and you could hear people screaming, and you could hear someone trying to bang on the door. The other pilot was like banging on the door saying, "Let me in, let me in." Yeah, nasty business. So that's the downside of you having these armoured doors, which were brought in for 9/11. I can understand, obviously, you know what I think of the official story of 9/11. However, it's generally, when it comes to general hijacking, having a sealed cockpit can be helpful, but the downside of that is it makes this kind of suicide more likely. Um, yes, it's this kind of before 9/11. It would have been a way to enter the cockpit and take control of the aircraft, to restrain this man. It's awful that he did that. I mean, if he was really feeling that down, I mean, you can't expect people who are mentally ill to think rationally about this or ethically. But he could have just taken up a Cessna and crashed that on his own. Why take all those people down with him? But again, when people are in that sort of frame of mind, yeah. Okay, guys. Where are we now? Theories, yeah. I think the most likely thing, in my view, is that it was something to do with the pilots. I mean, even though, obviously, Captain Ziari's been completely draped across the cold, as has the co-pilot, whose name was the Captain Zari Ahmad Shah, and the co-pilot, first officer Farik Abdul Hamid. Both of these men have been absolutely everything they've been picked apart. Everything they've ever done during their lives has been picked apart. Any sign of any instability, a mental illness, dubious political leanings, things like that, and they can't find anything. As far as we know, they were completely stable, professional men. Both were very, very experienced. Zahari had 18,000 hours of experience. Farik over 2,000. He was younger and a newer pilot, but Zahari had graduated as a pilot in 1981. Hamid had done so in 2007. So one of them was one of them was an old pilot, an old experienced pilot. The other one was much newer, but was also very experienced. So they look quite normal. Both these guys look quite normal. But the thing is, what else fits? That's the question. What else fits? Anyway, now people say it was a jihadist attack. Well, how could that have happened? Again, was something sneaked into the cargo hold? In which case, you could sneak a bomb on board a plane. That's what happened with Lockerbie. That's what happened to the Air India flight. I can't remember the actual details, but it was in the 80s. An Air India flight was blown up in the sky just west of Ireland. It crashed into the sea. I was on a transatlantic route. That was a 747. Again, a bomb was sneaked on board. With Lockerbie, a bomb was sneaked on board. They got it through security. But then they're saying that maybe some passengers were... They're then trying to compare this to 9/11, saying that some passengers were held hostage and things like that. And that some unknown terrorists have hijacked the plane and flown it to Afghanistan and then held the crew and passengers hostage. Well, there's no evidence of that. I don't know if the aircraft have the range to reach Afghanistan. And again, we know that it crashed in the sea, unfortunately, because of the wreckage. Unless that was a cover-up story. I mean, I'll go into that in a minute, but I think it's unlikely. But a story circulated on Reddit that MH370 had suffered sufficient fuel to be hijacked to North Korea. This was actually done in 1969 with a Korean Airlines aircraft. In late 2015, an article at MH370 Conspiracy Theories from The Independent mentioned that it had received an email claiming the US had authorized the plane to be shot down because it was carrying a nuclear warhead to North Korea. Now, this is interesting. Acquisition of Freescale staff. This is an odd coincidence. There was apparently email chain letters claiming that a patent was approved days after the disappearance of the aircraft, and the right to the patent was split 5 ways: 20% to Freescale Semiconductor, 20% each to the 4 employees, all of whom were passengers on the plane. The patent deals with the fabrication of integrated circuits on the semiconductor wafer. The urban myth website Snopes.com suggested there's no evidence that the 4 investors listed on the patent application were on the aircraft passenger list, nor that they were entitled to a 20% share. Field McConnell claimed the aircraft was seized to obtain stealth knowledge. Oh, right, of classified patents. Well, he comes. I think does he write for Veterans Today? Oh, I can't remember, but he comes out with stuff that sometimes that even I don't quite gel with. And you know how tinfoil hatty I am. There was a suggestion that MH370 had been captured by the United States and flown to the US military base on Diego Garcia. This is in the British Indian Ocean Territory. Jamnoy 72 actually has made a video about Diego Garcia because I think she has family roots there. It's quite horrible. Incidentally, it was horrible. It's been horrible what's happened there. A lot of the native population were like shipped out. It was a real scandal, quite rightly. There's now a political movement for these expats to return to their base, to return to their homeland, which is these little islands. So there are. I mean, I know some of you are going to say that the flaperon was planted evidence. That is, the wreckage from the aircraft was planted evidence. If that's the case, then I can't rule that out. I don't believe there's any reason to think that right now, because none of the alternative hypotheses make sense. But a crew suicide or hijacking. It's possible that one of the aircraft, somehow they were. The media reports revealed that Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah's wife and 3 children moved out of the house the day before his disappearance. That was later turned out not to be true. They mentioned the unidentified woman using a mobile phone obtained with false identity. Captain Shah was a supporter of the Malaysian opposition politician Anwar Ibrahim, who was actually sentenced to jail, suggesting that he was some kind of political zealot, anti-government. Well, he was obviously if he was openly supporting this guy. Probably if he wanted to pull off some kind of underhand operation, knowing how closely his pilots are monitored, he would have probably put out a cover story pretending to be the opposite, pretending not to support this guy, saying I've changed my mind or something. Because that's what the spies do, you know, they do that sort of thing. But it's hard to see how they weren't somehow involved, that's the thing. It's hard to see how they weren't somehow involved. Some suggested there was a fire on board, which destroyed the flight controls. This happened to Egypt Air Flight 667, I remember that. However, the aircraft kept flying, you see. It didn't... Normally, when a fire breaks out, it crashes. If the crew can't fight the fire and control it, it'll do enough damage to crash the aircraft. Oh, Rush Limbaugh said the aircraft might have been shut down. That's crazy. Even by his standards, that's a bit far out. He's normally a bit... There were airliner shoot-downs, sometimes accidental, as happened before. Iran Flight 655, of course, a very famous one. KL-007 as well. 007. James Bond. That was shot down by the Soviet Union in 1983 because it was a Korean airliner which they thought was an enemy aircraft. There's been some books written about this. The cyber attack theory. And someone said here, you know, that it's unlikely they haven't found wreckage. It's probably any wreckage on the seabed is too small to find. Now, there are some connections to flight MH17. Now, this is odd because MH17, of course, was blown up by a Buk missile above Ukraine after the civil war broke out in 2014. And somehow they may have been the same plane. However, they weren't identical models apparently. And also, you know, if you want to stage 2 crashes, fake crashes or deliberate destruction of aircraft. Why do you need to switch aircraft? I mean, there's this theory that the Titanic was switched. That was later disproved by Bob Ballard, but there was a guy actually who lived in Oxford, Robin Gardner. He actually died a little while ago. He wrote several books about how the Titanic had been switched and then scuttled at sea, which seems a bit odd because it would have been a suicide mission for the navigation crew who had to do it, all of them. But he does believe that it was actually the ship was scuttled. Titanic was scuttled, and it was actually another ship, the Olympic. They'd been switched in Belfast dry docks. And they're suggesting something similar with MH370, which seems a bit odd because why not just do whatever you need to do with the actual two aircraft? Just use two aircraft. It seems a bit over the top to switch these two aircraft. It is, though. Unfortunately, there was something a bit odd about this because now Richard D. Hall made this point in his video about this. He made a very good point. Air travel nowadays is very, very safe. Statistically, you'd have to fly continuously for about 500,000 years to be involved in a crash. For one airline to experience two crashes, that's Malaysia Airlines, two crashes within the same year is really, it's like being struck by lightning twice. Or being struck by lightning in the back garden, walking out to the front garden and having a meteorite land on your head. So it could be they're just very... I know some people are going to call coincidence. And of course, coincidences can happen. But as I explained in my SUFON talk, it's an unfalsifiable hypothesis. At what point will you say, well, this statistical ceiling is where I'm going to stop saying it's a coincidence. Anything above that is statistically significant. There's other theories that the plane might have been consumed by a black hole. Aliens were involved. Now... here we go. Abducted by aliens, time travelers, beings from another dimension. Now, there is something, I'm going to bring something up, actually, because I don't actually think that's likely. There's no reason to believe that's the case. However, aircraft disappearing, there's sometimes positive reasons to think that aliens are involved in aircraft disappearance. A good example, Frederick Valentich. Now, he was on a 125-mile nautical mile. It was a training flight. He was in a Cessna 182L light aircraft. He flew from southern Australia, near Melbourne, and he was actually heading for something called King Island, I believe. Yes, King Island. Now, there's all kinds of rumours about that he may have been depressed. Apparently, he was married, but he had a bit on the side who lived on that island, and there was rumours he was going over to go see her. These stories inevitably come about. However, he was flying over the sea. Well, I mean, he didn't have a seaplane. He couldn't land anywhere. And he reported a UFO. Now, the recording, there was a recording of his final radio messages, which have not been published. Obviously, I think that would be cruel to publish the actual radio messages. However, there is a transcript of the radio message, which I've read, and then indeed some actors have got together and recreated it to make it sound like an authentic recreation. And he suddenly says he gives out a distress call and says there's an aircraft in close proximity to me. Then he says it's not an aircraft. And after that, there's a noise which sounds like it's been described as some kind of crash, and then everything goes quiet. His plane disappears. He said there's an unidentified aircraft following it at 4,500 feet. He was told, the air traffic control said there's no known traffic in that area. He thought at first it was an aircraft illuminated by 4 bright landing lights, but then he reported it's not an aircraft. He described he said that the aircraft had moved above him. It had a shiny metal surface and a green light on it. He then reported he was experiencing engine problems, which does happen in the proximity to UFOs with cars normally. Then he says it's not an aircraft. Then there's an unidentified noise being described as a metallic scraping sound, which could be the plane crashing or being captured. I mean, there was a sea and air search carried out by, in the same way, similar to the one for MH370. It was over a smaller area of sea, and it ran from it ran to the 25th of October. This happened on the 21st of October 1978, and the rescue recovery mission carried on to the 25th of October, but received no results. It's some people claimed he became disorientated. Oh, James McGaha and Joe Nickel. The great skeptics. They always come at these skeptics, yeah. James McGaha, Joe Nickel. There's lots of lectures by these guys, and they always they often talk about aviation subjects and UFOs and things like that. He was deceived by an illusion of a tilted horizon, because basically an intimate a breakdown of his instruments, and put his aircraft into a downward graveyard spiral. So he basically lost. He became disorientated. And eventually, the plane would have been damaged by this tight turn. And he speculated that the lights he reported were planets. Oh yeah. Don't say weather balloons. They don't mention weather balloons. But the possibility, the fact that this happened so close to his encounter with an unknown object, which he describes, indicates that either he was taken by this craft and it abducted him, or the presence of this UFO caused the aircraft to crash into the sea. It sunk without trace, and maybe they'll find it one day, but it's a small aircraft lying on the bottom of the sea. I don't know how deep it is, but finding things on the seabed is very difficult, even if it's just like a couple of 100 feet of water. So, I mean, the fact that he was reporting problems with his engine could be that the plane was caused. It actually was caused. Now, there's this other thing that happened. Now, there's no absolute connection. A lot of people trying to connect this to MH370, but in March 2018, something really odd happened. A man received a voicemail on his mobile phone that caused him a lot of distress. He tweeted out, and I followed this guy on Twitter for a while, actually. I really need you all to listen to this voicemail I just got. I'm deactivating my cell phone service. I don't know why. I was just sent some military codes. The fuck do I look like Liam Neeson? And the voicemail, he then plays the voicemail where you get a robotic feminine voice, probably electronic, reading out a list of letters and numbers in the English phonetic alphabet. This is a method of communication when using voice radio that I myself had to learn at the hospital because porters had walkie-talkies. Voice radio is lower quality than face-to-face communication, so words are used to signify letters, so spelling mistakes are more avoidable. So each letter of the alphabet is represented by a word that begins with that letter: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, X-ray, Yankee, Zulu, etc. And it lists out this message in the phonetic alphabet. No spaces between the words. But when you skim it, and you can see that you can find there are a number of words there. But when you actually work it out, you can easily work it out and install and put in some spaces, word spaces. So the string is a message in English with some numbers, and it reads like this. This is what it says: Danger, SOS. It is dire for you to evacuate. Be cautious, they are not human. And then a list of numbers: SOS, danger, SOS. And it begins S. The S at the beginning. There's an S at the beginning. It probably means it's a repeating message. SOS, of course, means save our souls. It's a cry for help. It's a phonetic, basically Mayday communication. So the recording may be on a continuous loop. Some people have interpreted the numbers as GPS coordinates, and they've located it to various places, including parts of the Indian Ocean and the Gulf of Guinea, which they have linked it to MH370. And this guy's called Ty, T-Y, on Twitter. It's at Straydaway, STRAYEDAWAY, if you want to follow him. Although his account was deactivated eventually, but he set up a new one, which I followed. Then I stopped following him because he just started talking about other things. Now, he believes he was sent some secret military code by mistake, and he fears attention from the government security services. He claimed that someone actually photographed his house as well. He said that someone drove past his house and photographed it. He says he's since been sent messages on other media, foreign languages, threats. These are probably hoaxes, actually, by people who just read his tweet and thought they'd take the mickey out of him. And it's clearly he doesn't enjoy being the centre of attention for the tinfoil hat brigade. He asked people to stop sending him DMs about the matter. But what makes his story credible is that when I looked at his Twitter profile, and his account is primarily a humorous one. It was anyway, and it was mostly like left-wing humour, which there is a thing apparently. He said, "Yeah, I've got no sense at all. LGBTQ humour." And I read through it. There's a lot of anti-Trump stuff. There's lots of there's BLM things, or the equivalent. So he's kind of Antifa social justice warrior. He's very left-wing indeed. And the weird thing is, belief in this sort of thing, UFO Paracon stuff, is virtually non-existent among people with those political leanings. The only example I could find is Jay Posadas. I made a video about Jay Posadas. So he's not the type of person to make up this story. I really believe he did get this voicemail. What he's not, there's nothing else on his timeline that indicates he was in any way a part of this, a part of this kind of community that I'm a part of. No doubt you call me an evil racist fascist because I say Peking instead of Beijing. He may well have been sent something by mistake, yeah. It could be like a number station. Do you know the number station? Now, Miles Johnston knows about this and talks about it. These are basically radio transmissions which are in code, and a lot of them are quite creepy, actually. And they are in the pre-internet days, before mobile phones and like encryption. They would send out these analog radio messages all through the since the beginning of radios. This was communicated with spies, and some of them are quite weird. I mean, I picked up a number station once. Well, this when I was a little kid, I found it. It was a station because I used to like play around with radios when I was a kid. I had a radio scanner. I picked up a channel that was repeating the letters R, Y, and O over and over again in Morse code. You just kept repeating R, Y, O in Morse code. And it broadcast for years. It was really strange. But it's alarming. The content of his words are alarming. It really, really is. Now, there was a bit of an update to this because a skeptic, someone called Stranger Is, who is a Twitter skeptic, uploaded some YouTube videos and he shared them on Twitter. And he said, conclusion to the creepy Twitter voicemail message. And he starts by saying it's nothing to do with MH370. I think it's unlikely. I'm bringing this up only because it's part of the same culture that was trying to promote various strange things to do with it. And he worked out that this is actually a phantom call. Now, phantom calls are a relatively new problem. And thousands of telephone users get these, especially if you're on a mobile phone. Now, what happens is the handset rings. When you answer, you hear only some strange noises or a stranger talking to you in an unintelligible way. And I've listened to a few of these, and they are very weird, actually. The caller never responds to anything you say to them, and that's because the calls are recordings, and they're from an automated system. The calls are designed to disguise themselves to look like normal traffic from the network. So they're either anonymous or they're listed under a random number. You're given if you were given their number and call the phantom back, you will simply be put through to that random number, and the recipient will be unaware of how their number has been misused. Phantom calls are actually a money-making scam. What happens? They're sent by fake telecom companies that have joined a toll-free number service. Now, a toll-free number service is not actually free. What happens is it's just the end user is not charged, and the line carrier picks up the bill by reimbursing the company. So you set up a fake telecom company and you get reimbursed by any call you make. So this is very, very different to the old divert call scam where you were quietly and stealthily transferred to a premium rate line. Do you remember that? That was bloody awful. You phone up and they say, please press this number to continue. You press it and you're transferred to a premium rate line. Your next phone bill is like £300 over. You know. Phantom calls are different. They're also very different to the dead calls. You get like these dead calls as well. The phantom calls are designed to phone up as large number of people as possible and make as much cash off the toll-free service as they can. And to maximize the charges to the carrier, the phantom call has to keep the targeted user on the line for as long as possible. So they're hoping the target will spend several minutes saying, hello, hello, who is this? So there's a nice healthy payment to the fake company. So the dead call's different. I mean, the dead call's different. The dead calls are set up by marketers and advertisers, the legitimate ones, not bogus ones, simply to profile potential customers. That's when you phone, you get the phone call, you pick it up and hear nothing at all but silence, and then you just put the phone down. They're just testing you to see when you're in. Phantom calls are different. Now, dead calls, unfortunately, are not criminal. They're annoying, but they're not criminal. Phantom calls are completely criminal. So the police crack down on them. According to Stranger, his strayed away was just hit by a phantom caller. The strange message was simply intended to make him listen for as long as possible. It might feasibly be correct. There are several flaws to it. Firstly, the call was not picked up by TY. That's strayed away, not Ty. It went to his voicemail. The user was not on the line listening to the call. I don't think that counts as a toll-free call. Would an automated system not be able to cut the connection when there was no answer? It seems to run contrary to common sense, even though it's possible. The message also seems excessively elaborate for a phantom call. All it would have to do is keep strayed away on the line for as long as possible. It could have grabbed his attention without the need to encode real communications in the English phonetic alphabet, especially something as bizarre as that one. Live audio transliteration of EPA is not easy for anything other than short strings, and I've been trained to use the EPA when I was a hospital porter. But I would often communicate with other porters. But I'd just say something like 3 Alpha. If I was on Ward 3A, I'd say, they'd call me up, I'd say, on 3 Alpha now. Things like that. Or Sierra Echo Uniform, that would be Surgical Emergencies Unit, SEU. But you know, for a long text, you need to sit down there with a pen and paper and go over them a couple of times. So, including a meaningful EPA sentence in a phantom call would be superfluous. Why would the con men bother? I think it's more likely that in this case, the Twitter voicemail was some kind of encoded communication from the world of espionage, which is worrying because it talks about they're not human and things like that. Sent to him by accident. All right, guys, I'm going to go to the comments now. And again, I can't answer all your comments. There's so many. If you've left me a comment, you'll have to post it again, I'm afraid. Hello, 69 Phuket, how are you? Jock of Ages. I'll just say hello to people who've joined. Michelle Sovereign. Carla Hernandez, hello. Welcome. Nothing as it seems. Donna Wellham, welcome. It's good to see some new members here. Vince G. The King Island wreckage was never found. No. It could be the plane that just crashed into the sea and was lying on the seabed. It may still be there. Charles says the plane was shot in front of killing the pilots. The video of the ground-to-air missile shooting it down was metadated. Which one's that, Charles? Sorry. It's the Basis Project. Sorry, I thought it was Charles from... I can't get those two mixed up. Hello, Basis Project. Hello, how are you, Miles? You're right, mate. So, again, if I'm wrong about any of this, please tell me. And Charles says there's barnacle growth on the wreckage. Is that the flaperon? Because it coincides with when it went missing. Right. Again, that's a sign that it's probably genuine, yeah. And then there's several other mentions here. So I can't go through all these comments here. But anyway, guys, do you have anything you want to say about what I said? If you think I'm wrong, hello, Diego Vera, how are you? Zenmas Photos, greetings from the Netherlands. Dag, goedenavond. Charles says, you think I'm who? Oh, God, I've put my foot in it now. I got Charles from Project Camelot mixed up with the Basis Project. Oh, dear. Charles, forgive me, I'm sorry. Don't use your mind powers on me. Warbabe 1951, hello. TK, do you love Putin, Ben? No, I've never met Putin. Charles says, okay, I'll repeat it. Go ahead, Charles. Yes, sorry if you made... Heel goed. That's good. My mum was Dutch, that's how I can speak the language. Sorry, Charles. Hello, Miles. Thanks for tuning in, Miles, anyway. Thank you, all of you. God, hell, that was a long lead-off. It's gone on for an hour and 20. 69 Phuket has said something in French. Sorry, I learnt French at school and I've forgotten it all, mate. Sorry, I can't speak all languages. I can speak... TK, do you support Putin? TK, I've done an entire live stream about my position on Putin. I don't know if you've seen it. But it was one I did. I've done more than I've done live streams, and I did that interview with Nick Holostrom as well. That's Ukraine breaking the silence. So check out that video. All my entire position on it is outlined there. David, hello, David Splendization. How are you? What do you think it means or provides by getting to the bottom of the plane crash mystery? Well, it's basically for a coroner's inquest. I mean, it'd be nice to know what actually happened, wouldn't it? I'm sure the people who lost loved ones in that crash would want to know what happened. You know, this is why. Hello, Fabian Mood. How are you? This is why Jeff, the guy who lost his brother in 9/11. This is why he's working with Ian Henschel. And I met that guy actually, Jeff. He was at this film premiere I went to, if you remember. TK, the Russians blew up that plane. Really? How do you know? TK. Do you mean MH17 or do you mean 370? 17 MH17 was blown up by a Buk missile, apparently, which was fired from the ground. It's possible it was a mistake. It's possible it was a false flag. It's possible it was done deliberately. 69 Fugit. It's a mystery. Toya on YouTube. Oh, that's a great song, isn't it? You know, Toya Wilcox is one of us. You know, she's a tinfoil hatter like us. I've never spoken to her. She lives near me, actually. I might bump into her. John Nolan says, Michael told Kerry it's the Germans in her latest interview with him. You're actually saying that Michael Shrimpton is blaming Germans, John? Is that unusual? Charles said, Charles from Project Camelot, who is Charles, he's not Miles. Flight 370 was the 22nd commercial plane to go missing in 2014. Total for that year was... saw 562 plane missing, crash, 2,266 confirmed fatalities. Maybe no mystery at all. Maybe was there really? Let me just look that up. I'll just do this. Hang on. How many planes? How many aircraft went missing in 2014? It's Malaysian Airlines. What really happened? Malaysian Airlines. Oh no, it's all about Malaysian Airlines. You may be right, Charles. In which case, maybe it's just one of those. But in which case, it was the only one that was really publicised in the news. Funnily enough, Richard D. Hall was saying about Malaysian Airlines about how unlucky they were to lose 2 aircraft in 1 year. And he said there's a connection with Malaysia and the International Criminal Court, which. What's his name's been involved in? What's his name? The Canadian guy. I hate when I can't think of names. I'll think of it in a minute. Nihilist Lives Matter. Oh, right. TK. Yeah, there are two Malaysian Airlines planes. Zenmas Protest says MH17 is a false flag. It could be. It could be part of the. But there's been a lot of duplicity and very evil things being done in Ukraine. Not just in the present times, but from earlier. Diego Vera, have a look at Zelensky appearance today. It's clear he's in front of a green screen. Doesn't surprise me, mate. Doesn't surprise me at all. 69 Phuket, get me a date, Ben. What am I, Hitch? Diego Vera, is MH370 an Illuminati ritual? I've seen no reason for that. I know maybe Tina will disagree, but I've seen no reason to think that. Zenmar says Buk rocket cannot reach that altitude. Oh, what? Oh, really? So it might have been something else. Why are they always called MH? It's code. It's just like British Airways is BA. They always have 2-letter codes, the airlines. And maybe MY was already taken or MA was already taken. Diego Rivera, Toya Wilcox, Braless Rock. Blimey. Oh, Toya Wilcox, she's really keen on the paranormal and stuff. She did a debate with Chris French once, and she appears in this film about the Borley Rectory. It's a new film about the Borley Rectory ghosts. War Babe, 1951. Could the plane have been taken by a mother ship? I think Fred Valentich's plane could have. There's no reason to think MH370 was. Charles, it's much more common than you think. Right, Charles? Well, if that's the case, where did you get that information? It could be, was MH370 was publicised. I don't remember any other being publicised in the news. David says, why do you think the Bermuda Triangle isn't a continuing issue with disappearing aircraft? David, I think it's because... Are you addressing me? It's because there are such a large number of flights over that area. I think people have been confused because the reason so many planes go down that area is because the air traffic is much higher. Now, the weird things that happen in the Bermuda Triangle, though, I think some of them are real. Because... this doesn't mean it's anything to do with that geographical area, though, because the kind of weird stuff, like pilots and sailors reporting weird experiences, happens all over the world. So I'm not saying that the Bermuda Triangle phenomena, that the phenomena reported are actually not real. I'm just saying that that particular geographical location is not significant. Diego Rivera says, someone paid good money for those puppies and is determined to show them off. Are you talking about Toya? Hi, Teresa Walker. How are you? Why is it always Malaysian Airlines? Well, TK, it does seem to be bad luck, doesn't it? What's the name of that Canadian guy? Help me out, somebody. I've watched all his stuff on YouTube. What's his name? But he's involved in that world court, so that common law prosecution of George Bush or someone. Benji, has any remote viewing been done on FU is Ryan Airlines? That makes sense, doesn't it? That's good. FU is Ryan Airlines. Yeah, is it really? That makes sense. Anyone who goes on, buys their cheap ticket and thinks, whoa, I'm lucky, and you try to check in your luggage and realise how much that costs, certainly they are effing you, don't they, you know? I had the same problem when I went to Denmark with Norwegian. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. I'm just going to Google what you said there, Diego. Who was it? Was it Diego Rivera? Benji84. MH370. There we go. MH370 remote viewing. And I do take remote viewing seriously. It's a real thing. Have remote viewers and other psychic specialists been used to... Yeah, remote viewing, Flight 70. Right. Oh, there's loads of stuff. Major Ed Dames. Oh, God, Ed. You know, he's involved, is he? Not Ed Dames. Oh, dear. Quora. All right. There's so much here, I can't go into it all. Have remote viewers or other psychic specialists been used to locate the missing Malaysian Airlines MH370? S.Y. Gunson, former pilot. I have a friend in Malaysia, a tantric Tibetan Buddhist master known as Dagpa Rinpoche. Casting memory back to the time, people were making claims about MH17, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Dagpa told me he had a psychic vision which he spoke of the spirits of the dead from MH370. He was on the beach where scores of Chinese people started emerging from the water and came towards him. They were all trying to talk to him in Mandarin. The crowd fell silent, and a man resembling Captain Ziari stepped forward and explained that the plane had crashed southwest of Australia. Dagpa Rinpoche repeated that location to me. Right. They wanted the spirits of the passengers and crew wanted to ensure that someone found the plane. Rest in peace, he says. Well, it could be that the searchers will actually listen to this. I mean, remote viewers, they do take remote viewing seriously, like governments and that sometimes. David says foreign pilots aren't as good as skilled as ours. No, that's right. So Benji, there's so many answers to your question I can't go through them, unfortunately. John Nolan, yes, John Nolan's mentioned the strange UFO that was seen over Ireland on the 1st of March. Yeah, I've just done an article about that on Hapanwo Voice. 69 Phuket, Malaysia pissed off the NWO. Well, maybe. See, Richard D. Hall was saying that. And he said statistically it's to do with the World Criminal Court. What's the name of that guy? Hang on. Criminal Court. Malaysia. International Criminal Court, Malaysia. What's his bloody name? Coalition for the ICC. I'll either think of his name in a moment, or someone will tell me. But he's someone I watch all the time. I read his stuff all the time. But he was like the chairman of that. I think Richard and Andrew Johnson think he's a shill, but that's not surprising. There's a bit of a rivalry here between Western pilots and pilots of the Orient. Someone's accused David of xenophobia. What's this? TK says, you might as well just all foreigners are stupid. Oh, TK! You're like the pub landlord, you are. Diego Rivera, what about the Leicester City chairman helicopter crash? Oh, that was weird. I think that was caused by fog, wasn't it? But someone said that there was something connected. He was something connected with that. I don't know. Charles says, when it hits the shareholders' wallets, then safety standards improve. It's a shame it has to go to that, doesn't it? Diego Rivera, do you think MH370 collided with a secret military aircraft? I've not seen anything to suggest that, Diego Rivera. So, does anyone have any other theories about how this could be? I think the most likely one is something to do with the pilots. I mean, it could have landed somewhere. It could have been that the pilots were involved in something criminal. Maybe both of them are. Maybe it's a conspiracy between the two of them, even though the investigation's shown them all acting as normal. Obviously, the plane was disposed of in the sea at some point, and sadly, presumably they disposed of the passengers and the stewardesses and that as well, the cabin crew. If so, then they're pretty ruthless guys. David says here, all human souls have equal worth, but some cultures' mentalities are better than others. Just a fact. We should stop feeling guilty for observing this, as if we're trying to make others feel bad. David, I have to agree. I think that I do consider some cultures around the world inferior to others, and some are superior to others. I can't help it. This is why I say Peking and Bombay, the empire guilt thing, which I talked about at the beginning. No, Charles says they have been cutting corners for safety standards. Is that Malaysian Airlines, Charles? Nihilist says, why did he change course? Yeah, you see, this is the thing. It didn't just disappear. Fred Valentis just vanished. This plane changed course. It went off-grid. It shut off. It stopped communicating and went off its standard air corridor, its flight plan, deliberately, several hours before it vanished. The pilots must have done this. Why? I mean, again, it could be that the investigators came up with something classified they're not telling us. It could be it's something to do with the passengers, those 12 guys from that company. There were 12. It could be, it could be that there were there were 239 souls lost. From various countries, mostly from China and Malaysia but there were a couple from other countries. And some of the Chinese guys were involved. It could be that they do, planes do sometimes ship entire contingents from an organisation together. You go on a group ticket. But if there's something about the semiconductor company and things like that, it could be there's something to do with that. It could be that they're not something they're not telling us. Charles says they were facing bankruptcy. Yeah, they really did suffer from this, that company. That carrier has really suffered, which is to be expected. I mean, 2 crashes in a year. Nihilist says the better you think Aztecs pulled beating hearts out of sacrifice victims are equal to Buddhist culture. I don't think that, Nihilist. Maybe TK does, I don't know. Rick Horden says remote control. Well, that's the hacking theory, yeah. That is the theory that someone hacked it from the ground. Now, to do that, it would have been very difficult because they would have to essentially prevent the pilots from firstly overriding the ground control and also preventing them communicating, giving off a distress signal. Can that be done? Dov Sakheim said that couldn't be done. I don't necessarily believe Dov Sakheim. He's one of the neocons, but he came out with this idea that you can actually take control of a hijacked aircraft from the ground and land it. So, Peace Warrior says, Rolls-Royce have trackers on every engine. I'm sure they know where it ended up. Right. Well, Peace Warrior, the problem is, like, they may have the trackers, but the trackers can't necessarily communicate that kind of data from that distance. The trackers, it could be like the flight recorders. I was explaining how the pingers on the flight recorders only work at a certain depth. If they're under the sea, they only actually can be heard about 6,000 feet in waters of 6,000 feet from the surface, which means if you can't detect the pinger within 30 days, you can put a deep you can put a deep hydrophone, but you'd have to be very lucky. And AussieCast says, yes, it's Alfred Lambremont Weber. Thank you very much, AussieCast. Yeah, Alfred Weber. I can't think of him. I know him so well, and it's like, oh, what's his name? 69 Phuket says, the next pilot to take me to Thailand, I wish, is a Thai girl. Well, I'm sure you can meet plenty of Thai girls over there, you know. Charles says, no bankruptcy before the plane disasters. That's why they cut corners. Well, you know, if they did, Charles, if they did cut corners, then they've only got themselves to blame. David is talking about is arguing about culture. So does anyone have any more points to make? I won't go on. I've been going for an hour and a half plus now, so I won't go on much longer. But if any of you have any other comments to make about the MH370, then please do so, because otherwise I'll call it a night. But it's been interesting, hasn't it? I mean, you guys wanted me to talk about this. I think some of you may be a bit surprised about how prosaic my answers were and my assessment of this event was. But I've been honest with you. I can't rule out the things that Strayed Away talked about. You know, the strange thing. Particularly if Fuka says, "Oh, shut up!" Good grief. Nihilist Lives Matter. Be interesting if there was anyone of interest on the passenger list. Yeah, that's the point. There were 2 guys on fake passports. I don't know how unusual that is, but these passports have been stolen a couple of years ago, and they had been reported stolen but not cancelled. TK, MH370. Can you give a summary of what's happened, Ben? Oh, TK! Watch the live stream recording. Watch the recording, mate. I've just been doing that. Joe Glover says, I heard a similar story of someone important on board. My question is, why go to so much trouble when they or whoever could have anyway? Well, this is what I thought about the guy on the plane who was working for some pharmaceutical company researching AIDS vaccines. Yeah, it's why, if they wanted to get rid of him, why? It seems a bit of a long way to go to put him on a plane and blow it up. Couldn't they arrange a heart attack for him, or a car crash? Diego Rivera says, ground control to Major Tom, the opening line of Space Oddity. Yeah, that rather sad song by David Bowie. Bernie Tucker's leaving. Night-night, Bernie. See ya. Yeah, that's a rather grim song, isn't it? I played it on the Panama radio. Funny enough, they listened to that guy on was it Chris Thomas, the Canadian guy on the International Space Station? He made a big hit because he did a cover version for David Bowie on while he was up in space. It's supposed to be the first hit record recorded in space. And Bowie very much approved, but that's the last song you want to listen to while you're up on the ISS, I'd have thought, But funny enough, maybe they have like a dark sense of humour. For example, they also watch the film Gravity when they're on the ISS. That's a tradition. And when you're at the South Pole Station, apparently in Antarctica, they always watch the thing. Joe Glover, how are you? I'm fine, thanks, Joe. I hope you are. It was a flat Earth kamikaze. Oh no, Phuket, please, no. David Schultz. Maybe next time talk about the 4 planes on 9/11. I've covered it several times, David, but I'm happy to bring it up again. Nihilist says, I'm thinking more along the lines of an assassination of a person of interest, someone who had the dirt on someone, for example. It's a plane crash is a strange way to do it. There are curious anomalies with the passenger list. The two guys on fake passports. For example, the company which had a number of people on board, but it doesn't quite fit. And Zenmars Pro says MH17 also had a HIV scientist on board. Well, that's odd, isn't it? Yeah. Charles says here, cheers, Ben. Zeroing in on a single disaster when there were 562 in the same year is pointless. These things happen to more people. Yeah, that could be, Charles. But the thing is, I tried Googling, how many plane crashes in 2014, and everything was MH370. MH370 is the only one that appears to have been widely publicised until MH17 happened. So why were the others not publicised? Could you let us know where you found that out? I'd be interested to find it. Pigso says, thanks for doing this, Ben. Did you see a theory about MH370 landed at a military airport in Diego Garcia? Yes, I did. If it's unlikely, but I've heard about that, yeah. Either way, I mean, the plane was disposed of in the sea. The wreckage was found in the sea. If it landed somewhere, then the plane was disposed of in the sea. It may have been flown somewhere else, and then the pilot parachuted and then crashed the plane into the sea or something, TK, so did anyone die on the plane? Unfortunately, yes, TK. I don't believe these people who say that they're all alive. They're all alive on fake identities. There's no evidence for that. 69 Phuket said smacked into the ice to preserve the DNA. It would have had to fly to Antarctica. It didn't have the fuel. Right, Charles says aviation statistics website. All right, I'll look that up, Charles. I'll look that up. So people also claim that the passengers on the 9/11 planes also were taken somewhere and given fake identities, and they live in the high life in the Bahamas or something. Again, unfortunately, they were probably just disposed of. Those that did exist, because a lot of the passenger manifests on 9/11 were fake names, which is odd. Yeah. I'm gonna post your last comments if you have any comments to make. I will answer them, and then I'm going to call this a night, because it's been a good live stream. I'll do another one soon, because maybe I'll do one next week. Next weekend, I'm going to be away Saturday, but I could do one Sunday. But I'm glad someone brought this up, because a couple of you've been on at me for ages to do a live stream about this subject, and I thought, oh yeah, sure, I'll oblige. I do take requests. Deb Allen, they were all holograms on 9/11. I think that certainly in New York they were, yes. The New York, what we see in New York was, yeah. Let's hope everything gets good soon. I hope so, yeah. Zenmas says the 9/11 planes were not fully packed. That's right, they weren't, and they were half full. And indeed, some of the names on there, the manifest, don't hit. Charles says Malaysia Airlines have been warned multiple times about safety standards and poor maintenance. They're trying to divert attention. Yeah, Charles, I'm sure that they do. When people say, "Oh, they were sucked into a black hole" or something like that, I'm sure they may be sort of sitting there thinking, maybe let them think that for a bit. Yeah. Pixo says, I love this topic. I think there's more to it than maybe you do, but thanks so much for covering it. You're welcome, Pixo. If there's any evidence for what you believe, just let me know. Greg H, hit the like button. Yeah, please do, guys. Donna, all the best, Ben. It is a mystery. It is a mystery, and, yeah. Hugo Roon, hello. Thanks, Ben. Nothing more from me. Just listening out to you. Thanks, Hugo. I've emailed you, actually. It's about I've emailed you about Mick Jagger. I'm going to email you again about something else pretty soon, because it's to do with that video you sent me. I've got an idea. So keep watching your emails. See you, David Schultz. See you, mate. Take it easy. Charles says, my friend who was died on the plane stolen from Logo was not a hologram. Sheesh. Charles, condolences for that. I'm very sorry to hear that, and I know that there were real people on those planes that have since not been accounted for. They've gone, they've disappeared. I know that, and I don't believe though that they have died the way they've been told they've died, and it's not doing them any favors for me to say otherwise. David, Ben, what would you practically do if you got the 10-minute warning? Probably just do a live stream, Write an article for Panboy Voice. You're welcome, TK. Glad you like it. Pixo, do you have any more mystery streams you can think of doing? I think it's cool to hear that people's theories on unsolved stuff like this. I have done a few already, Pixo, and indeed, I'm planning others. I'm planning one on the cryonics thing. I'm also doing some more watch parties, and also if you have any ideas, you can let me know. I do take requests. Maybe an interview with Toya Wilcox. That'd be great. Toya, if you're listening, get in touch because I think you're so cool. I really do. You are really open-minded. You're on our side. TK, I hear you're going to dance at the end of today's live stream. Is that true? Now that is one. That's if you have to wait for Christmas when I'm drunk. Charity Shop Cat, is it true about you being an MI5 agent? I've seen lots of comments about it recently. No comment from me, but it's an interesting theory that you may be infiltrating certain circles. Oh, and speak of the devil. We have Lesbian eBay reselling. Isn't it surprising? Ben, the JR MI5 shill, pushing the standard government agenda on MH370 that it crashed in the ocean. How very predictable. Richard, go and do a tour or something, please. I want you to do a tour. I love your tours, please. Jump on the bed and break it, says 69 Phuket. Only if you get me drunk. Oh yeah. Charles says RDH says he is an MI5 agent like most of the world's population. Yes, I know. I think Richard needs to look in the mirror and ask himself some searching questions. You know, the first rule of espionage or counter-espionage is to suspect everyone. Like they said in Blackadder, I'm going to be asking myself some searching questions. Maybe he does protest too much. David says, do you know if Oxford is a primary target? Have you researched it? Well, I don't know. David, I heard when I was a kid, people said that because we got air bases near us that Oxford would be hit. I honestly don't. I'm not as worried about this as you may as I would think I was, because it's something I can't control. I have no control over it. I can try and give the truth out, which I've been doing about what's happening. But at the end of the day, I mean, I can only do what I'm doing now, and I'm already doing it. So I'm already doing everything I can to try and prevent this disaster that is a threat. Araminta Mooncrow says, with respect, he isn't likely to admit it if he is. But no, he isn't. Yeah, Araminta's met me. She's spoken to me. We're going to meet again, actually, in a few weeks. And both she and her beloved have met me. And I think we got on well, didn't we? I think I came across as sincere. RDH is in the chat. Yes, well, he won't. He's undercover, you see. Because he does. And Nice Lives Matter says he can't be an MI5. He's white and male. Yes, exactly. He's not going to. He's not going to get past the affirmative action filter, is he? Pixar. I don't think it's Richard. I'm joking, TK. Everyone's asking, is Richard D. Hall here? Is he here? I'm joking. I'm taking the mickey out of Lesbian eBay reselling. She says, who's this Richard you speak of? I'm joking, Lesbian, because you're always accusing me of being an MI5 agent. And there's another person who does that, who I'm pretending is you for a joke. It's a joke. User 1, what's the shiny object on your bed, Ben? Oh my god, it's an alien probe. Actually, it's a salad bowl. I just left it there earlier. Lesbian says, 60 people watching right now. 60 people you've been brainwashed into believing that you question the norm when actually you're quite literally an MI5 shill. Shame, really. Oh. Les, baby. I know you're giving me a shit test here, aren't you? Look, Les, if you listen to this entire program all over again, I go through all the possible outcomes for this particular mystery. Okay, I'm saying what I'm saying because I really believe it's true. If someone gives me evidence that this is something paranormal or conspiratorial about what happened to that plane, right, I will immediately voice it on this channel. I'm not trying to cover up anything. I'm just being honest about what I believe caused this. Gamer Guy, hey Gamer Guy, how you doing? How come Putin is getting blamed? The West pushed him into it. Yep, Sleepy Joe and Bojo. Yeah, Gamer Guy. They want nuclear war for depopulation purposes. Maybe they do. I know there's this bloody. It wasn't Greta Thunberg. It was someone else. One of her little acolytes said maybe a nuclear war would be a good thing. It would reduce the population and it would it would reverse climate change. I mean, there'd be some damage from the radioactive fallout, but it wouldn't be that. It wouldn't be as bad as letting climate change keep going. These people are insane. They are absolutely insane. Oh, they're nutcases. I mean, there's other people who've been calling for depopulation by any means necessary. There was a guy called Penty Linkler said that there should be nuclear war to reduce the population. Araminta says, "Oh, thanks, Araminta. Thank you very much." David says, "You can't control it, but you could have a plan of action in case it happens." Well, I believe more in prevention than cure. I really do. Greg H is a Palantir orb. Yes, I'm going to have a word with Saruman in a minute. Ben's olive oil wet spot. It's not. Oh God! Someone spotted my milk. Oh God! Yeah, it's actually defrosting. I had it in the freezer in the kitchen. I'm actually defrosting it. And Les, yes, there's a face in the face in my headboard is very, very famous. People think it's Bungle from Rainbow. Oh man. Oh, Charles says something. Yeah, they should start by cutting their own nads off. Yes, lead by example. Yeah, they never do. Or better still, shooting themselves or something. I mean, it's they never. They always say other people have to go. They never volunteer to go first, do they? Have you noticed that? Now, Bill Gates is one of the biggest consumers in the world who talks about the need for fewer people in the world. Well, Bill, come on, set a good example. Yeah, don't just talk about it, go, you after you, sir, Yeah, Jock of Ages, people who support population reduction should lead by example. They never do, don't they? Les says, I personally think the face is your MI5 handler. Oh, well, if it is, it doesn't speak to me except in my dreams. Gamer Guy, where is the alien that's sometimes in your video? Oh, Russell is currently on an intergalactic mission right now. He'll be back later. Zenmaster says, my husband bought a wireless radio. Yeah, it's a good... I've got like a couple of old things like that. But, I'm focusing on... This is what I don't like about prepping. I mean, I understand why people do prepping, especially if they've got small kids. But prepping is a form of surrender. It really is. I know it's almost like saying, well, the Illuminati are going to win. We have to just we have to just get ready for when they do win or get away with whatever they want to get away with. I don't want that. I've got my kid's grown up. I've got she's independent. She's doing her own thing. I'm doing my own thing. David, I don't mean to preventing nuclear war, but prepping in case it happens, to have a plan, what to do, where to go. I think everything I can do is here, David. As I said, I believe this can be prevented. Our Snarlock's made an interesting comment here. Bed, would you say that Tintin Flight 714 has an influence on your interest in UFOs? No, but how do you know I've read that? I mean, I did mention I like the Tintin books. Flight 714 is very interesting indeed because it's one of Hergé's best Tintin comics. What happens in it? It was written a long time ago. It was written sometime in the 60s, but it's very like what happened. It's similar to the real story of MH370. What happens? A plane takes off and then is hijacked and then it lands on an unknown island somewhere, and then the hijackers are planning to basically get some money out of this millionaire, this guy who's on board. He's a guy, the heroes Tintin and Captain Haddock got a lift off this guy. And they want to get some money out of him, so they give him a truth drug and try and... So basically it's an extortion racket. But then aliens turn up. I'm not kidding you. Aliens turn up. Please do. If you, it's a really good... Tintin is actually really great. It's very politically incorrect as well. 69 Phuket, have the housemates moved out? Ahmed and Hassan are still here. Jelly's gone, and he's not coming back, Charles, where's Liberace? He's quiet tonight, but he has been playing. He's been tickling the ivories a couple of times. Cosmic Claire, hi Claire. Hi Ben, are you fending off the defeatists again? I'm trying to, Claire. It's I mentioned the prepping, yeah. It is a form of surrender. It's a form of surrender, which is why it's not my particular field of interest. Marlene Magdal, would you rather shag Diane Abbott or admit once and for all you're an MI5 agent who was never fired from the NHS, instead recruited into a higher agency to infiltrate us? My opinions of I have a very low opinion of Diane Abbott. She's she's a dim, obnoxious, victim-obsessed, overrated, overpaid bureaucrat who I can't stand. And no, I wouldn't want to be intimate with her. But I can't admit to something that's not true, Marlene. Snarlock, have you read Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods? Yes. Now, that might have influenced me, Snarlock. I read that when I was a little kid. It was in my school library. And I got it out loads of times. Nihilist, like, if you want to prep, that's fine. All right, I won't come knocking on your door asking for some of your dried pasta and bog rolls. I promise you. And as you said, there, you think is once you start prepping, you have to arm yourself, because especially if you live in a big city. If you're out in the countryside in a small village, you'll be all right. In fact, I would say if you're going to prep, you need to move house, get into a small village in the countryside, because that's the only place you'll be safe from looters. Because everyone's going to try in a big city, and probably maybe not Oxford. Oxford's sort of in between. But if you're in London or Manchester or somewhere, it's going to be a war zone in 10 minutes. You have to be armed, because everyone's going to try and nick everything from everyone else. We're not Japanese, I mean, it's the way the Japanese respond to these things. It's just so different. After the tsunami in Japan, people were like helping each other out. They weren't taking anything. They were raiding shops, but they were only taking so much. They left enough for everyone else, and things like that. But the British people aren't like the Japanese. We panic, and we become selfish in our panic, and we become aggressive. And so, if you're going to be a prepper, I mean, there's no point. And probably in Oxford may be all right. Get into the countryside. I mean, if you're living in a small village, once the petrol runs out, no one's going to come and bothering you. You'll be basically you and your friends in the village, and then loads of farmland around you. That's the place to go. But as I said, I just don't like prep. I don't like the idea of prepping. I just don't. I think Claire put it very well. Claire understands this. It is a form of surrender. Jamelia Jackson, hello Jamelia, how are you? Hello Ben, good to see you. Been a long time, hope you're well. I'm not bad, thanks Jamelia. Thanks for posting. It's good to see you back. Right, here we go. Lesbian, oh shut up. Oh goodness me. Do you hate Diane Abbott because she's black? No. She would say that. Everyone has a problem with Diane Abbott. It's because, oh, you hate me because I'm black. Oh. No, no one. People loathe her because she's so, for the reasons I've just said. Yeah, someone spotted my tea bags. I've got tea bags here. Snarnock, yeah, I suspect that Hergé read Chariots of the Gods, and Flight 714 might have inspired him. That is really good, that one. That Flight 714, I think, is one of my favourites of the book. I think Tintin in Tibet is the absolute best one. These books were part of my lived experience when I was a kid, the Tintin books. Claire says, Cliff Eye says he thinks there will be temporary shortages, but not total collapse. No, I think the deep state may be trying to engineer some kind of crisis now as a last resort, Charles, explain your eyebrows. I don't know, Lesbian, shut up. I don't care what colour she is. She's the only one who cares about that. For Diane Abbott, it's the centre of her whole identity. Because people pay her she stands up and says, I'm a black woman, and people pay her. People throw money at her, and they give her promotions, and they give her jobs. If you keep doing that, she's going to keep saying it. Right. Oh, Diego Veras mentions a meteor that's going to hit the Earth. Now, there are some that are a bit roaring. They're not due to hit for a few decades, but, that could happen. There was an impact, actually, last week. It was a small one, but, yeah. Malaya Grimm. Yeah, get into the mountain. If you want to be a prepper, you've got to get into the countryside. There's no point otherwise. That film Blackout, that was quite scary, actually, Blackout. I think I mentioned it in one of my videos. It's a dystopian found footage drama about basically a power cut that covers the entire country. and lasts a whole week. And there's these preppers in the city, and they just get their stuff. They get their generator nicked. There's this like really cool prepper guy, does YouTube videos. Within a couple of days, people break in and steal his generator. Cosmic Claire, King Ottokar's Scepter and the Secrets of the Unicorn. Yeah, they're very good. Greg, hey, Savage Time Call for Savages. Yes, Greg, unless you're Japanese, or it may vary according to culture. But the Japanese are different, and maybe other cultures are. But certainly in Britain, Savage Times, you call for savages, and you do. If you're living in a big city, literally, you will have to literally arm yourself to stop people breaking into your house, and just even if you don't have a storage, they're just going to break in just to see what's in your fridge or in your cupboard. Vagabond Heart says it here. Says some very wise words. So many trolls in here. If you don't like Ben, then don't watch him. Exactly. Yeah. Snarlock, have you watched the movie Millennium about an airline that vanishes and travels into the future to resolve a future crisis? No, in 1989. No, I've not. There's a very good one called The Langoliers, which is based on a Stephen King. A Stephen King story. This is good, yeah. Have you seen The Trigger Effect, says David? No. I'm not going to answer any more questions about Diane Abbott. I just don't want to think about the cow. I really don't. Honestly, it's like they're stuck. They can't sack her. But maybe it's a good thing, because every time she opens her mouth, she costs her party about 150,000 votes. And so maybe, but I think they really regret bringing her in now, because they can't sack her for obvious reasons. Well, not just the obvious reason, the fact that she and Jeremy Corbyn have a history. Yeah, you know what I mean. In the early 80s, when they were new MPs, but they were both married to other people, and they were both seeing each other covertly on the side. And she's probably got a lot of dirt on him, and probably other Labour Party people as well. Yeah. So they can't sack Diane Abbott for two reasons. Would you? No, I wouldn't really. I wouldn't want to. I can't stand her. I can't be intimate with a woman I don't like. I really can't. Even if she was good looking, and Diane Abbott is not. Even if she's very good looking, I wouldn't. No. It would make me feel horrible. All right, guys. 69 Phuket says, shut up and stand up. No, I won't. Oh, it's 2 hours, man. So, Charles says most people in Parliament have a history ban. Well, Charles, how else do they get up there? How else are they allowed in? Claire says, I'm willing to put up with hearing a lot more from Diane Abbott in that case. Yeah. Charles, do you think that direct energy devices from a satellite brought down or turned to dust MH370? And no reason to think that, no. David says, The Trigger Effect is a film about a blackout where society collapses. That sounds a sort of thing, yeah. Diego Vera, what about the comedy films? Airplane. I love it, don't I? I love Airplane, yeah. Stop calling me Shirley. Kate Nye, shame you can't clarify the truth behind your department promotion in the NHS. Kate Nye, there's several articles on the HPWA where I talk all about it. Yeah. Charles says, did they do it behind the speaker's chair? Oh my god. Oh, sorry, 69 Phuket. Oh, you're addressing the trolls. All right, thanks very much. All right, guys. I think I'm going to call it a night if there's nothing else now. Basic Materials Project. Greetings. I'm about to end it now, I think. Anyone else want to say anything? And Vagabond has mentioned the people of interest on the flight. That could be. I just can't think of anything. Night User 1. Thanks for posting, mate. Thanks for posting. It's been a good live stream. Good night, Kate Nye. Leave it for now, I'm afraid. No, oh, Claire. All right, sir. Claire's got a recommendation. Night, Claire. Night. Araminta, I know they are, but they're small fry. I've had much worse. I'll tell you all about it when I talk to you, but they're small fry. I'll answer your inbox. I'll go to my DMs as well. I haven't had time to look at my DMs, but I know you sent me some. No worries, Claire. Thanks very much. Night, David. Shut up. Night, Hugo. Night, Kate. Night, Snarnock. You take care, guys. It's been a good live stream. You asked for it, you got it. MH370 Livestream. Night, Greg. Take it easy. Thanks, Araminta. Night, Rick. You take care, guys. Sleepy Ben. Oh, I'm turning into Joe Biden. Oh. Night, night. See ya. Bye-bye.